Loud. Yay. All right.
Sweet.
It is 7 o'clock here on the East Coast, which means it is 4 o'clock where our speaker is. So he's nice and happy because it's warm and sunny there,
Bright and sunny.
which is a change for where you are. So, but we will get started. So I want to thank everybody for coming this evening. I appreciate you taking some time out and for our speaker taking his valuable time out. But I'm going to let him do his introduction because I've gotten a nice little sneak peek of his presentation. He does talk about a little bit about his background, so I'll hold off on doing any sort of bio and let him do that. But without further ado, go ahead and take it away.
All right. Thank you for having me. Hello, everyone. I think there's about 10, 12 of us on here now. So welcome. Thank you for taking the time out of your day and attending which is bound to be a long, continuous rant about me and coming to listen to me. So thank you for doing that. And hopefully you'll get some education out of this. And for housekeeping stuff, before I even get to my disclaimer, I just wanted to say that for questions, if you guys have any questions as I'm going, feel free to submit them in the chat, or if you can watch out for raised hands or something in the videos, that's fine. I don't mind stopping in the middle and answering questions. So we should be good to go there. I am Jaspreet Baveja. I live out here in the Northern California Bay Area, and it is nice and sunny, like Alex said. And looking at my calendar, it shows about 64 degrees outside, bright and sunny, no rain in the forecast, no gray clouds. So just saying, not teasing anyone, just saying what it is. And I love out here. I've been living out here for about 10 plus years now. Came from Miami. I mean, can't really get better than that either. So love this private lending space. Been in private lender for about 2.5 years now, and it's been pretty awesome. Before I get any further, let me go ahead and go to the next slide and show you my disclaimer. This is for informational education purposes only. These are all my views, my opinions, my approach. I am not a legal advisor, tax advisor, agent, broker, custodian, nothing. So please talk to your own before you make any decisions or investments. And yeah, this last one applies to everyone everywhere, that all investments are risky. I don't care what they say. Nothing is guaranteed, that neither your money back nor return on your money. So going on, like it says here, I quit my job in healthcare back in 2019. May 10th, 2019 is when I left my job. I was in healthcare doing regulatory compliance consulting. So much fun. And IT background before then, executive reporting, dashboards, business analysis, IT manager on a cruise ship back in the day, sailed on the ship, from I think California to Mexico and back and stuff on cruise ships and all. So interesting life. And I have since May 2019 have been enjoying and actively helping others get to their dream of passive income, and mainly through private lending. I started in June 2018 with one loan that was $215,000 in Indianapolis while I was here in California, and quickly scaled that up to 40 in 2019, all with my own money. It was ridiculously fast. And since then, I've built a business that allows me to pursue my passion of travel, which is just in 2019 alone, my family and I, we went through 9 countries and 3 states, and my family is right there on the right. I've got my wife, beautiful wife, Guneet, and my 2 young kids, 5 and 7 years old. And we took a car, traveled through Europe, drove through 7 countries, and it was just amazing. And the fact right there, it says that generating income on my own terms, literally, because all loans have terms. So, haha. Anyways, I'll go over some key components and experiences that have allowed me to get here and allowed me to comfortably lend on properties that are over 2,000 miles away. I have sometimes approved loans, gotten a loan request, reviewed the documents, the property, approved the loan, and funded it within 6 hours, same day. And so while some of you are going like, what, are you crazy? Some of you may already have done that too. So we'll get there in the Q&A and the open talk section. People can let me know what they think about that. All right, moving on. Some real estate investment experience to let you know who I am. I am a limited partner in multiple syndications, and they go across all of those types. I am a multifamily investment in California and Texas. I think 70 units each, so about 150 units total. Self-storage facility. They bought a warehouse in Toledo, and they were doing the ground up construction rehab to make it a self-storage, and that to a weather controlled. So, could have internal ACs and heat and in each unit and all that stuff. So I haven't seen a penny in 2 years because it's a construction thing. And they just opened their doors in January. So I probably won't see another penny for another 2 years while they stabilize, rent up, and start generating cash flow. So just watch out for those things. New construction, always long-term stuff. CBD extraction facility in Southern California. That one, if you've heard any of that podcast, the city came down and shut it down and said, no, we will not give you a permit that we told you we were going to give you 6 weeks ago. And so that hasn't generated any return in probably a year and a half either. But they're saying that they're still chugging along and trying to get some more contracts and stuff. So we'll see how that goes. An office space in Colorado Springs. This one is rented out to Northrop Grumman. They have 2 buildings, one to Northrop Grumman. The other one was leased to another contractor, and they just sold that building off. But that's generating great returns. And then there's a warehouse space in Boulder, Colorado that's rented out to all marijuana operators. I think there's like 7 floors and 3 different buildings, and all of them are rented out to 7 different operators. And that's generating, I think, 10 to 14% cash flow. So great property. And then I have rental properties in California and Indiana. One of them is a duplex, one of them is a single family home. And then in California, I just bought a house which has a studio attached to it, the single family home. Just had it legalized literally today. Got the final stamp of approval, so got a valid ADU in the back. Then I've done some flips in Austin and Indianapolis, some intentional, some that were supposed to be long-term rentals, but decided I'm done with it and rehabbed it a little bit and just enough to get out of it. So always got to have multiple exit strategies in mind, guys, even when it comes to private loans. And so then in private lending, which is what we're here to talk about, I've done probably $6 million worth of transactions so far. And 60 deals of those are with my own money now, about 100 or so with my family, like my dad, cousin, close friends, and other investors. Some of them are probably even on this call. And through all of these transactions, I've got a 0% principal loss, $0 principal loss, 0 late payments, 0 foreclosures, 0% default rate. Nobody's ever not paid back when they were supposed to. And so hope to maintain that and not loosen any of my criteria, not change my underwriting, not present deals to people that I wouldn't do myself, and really do rely on the trust and relationship aspect of private lending. I think that's the space I operate in the most, is building a connection with the borrowers, getting to understand their family situations, their jobs, what their final goal is, and even for a specific property, what do they have in mind? If they are going to do a rehab, do they have the right teams in place? Do they have the right mindset? Do they have the right cushion to go in and do things? So I just like to be that third-party neutral sounding board for my borrowers to be able to bounce ideas off of, tell me what they're thinking, what they want to get into. If it's a bad deal, I tell them. If it's a great deal, I congratulate them and fund it right away. So it's just a very relationship-based thing, and I love operating in that space and having a relationship and being able to have one-on-one conversations with my borrowers as and when needed. I have them on WhatsApp, I have them on Facebook Messenger, chats, text messages, emails, you name it. I communicate any which way that I can. So before we go further, anybody got any questions, any comments, anything at all? Huh? We're all good. I'll go on to the next slide. So why out of state? Why would you want to lend out of state? I know that this whole presentation is supposed to be me lending out of state. I've done 2 loans in California before I say that I've only done out of state. I've done 2 deals in California. One of them is still active. paying great monthly rate every month. I get cash flow, so I have no qualms. The borrower is someone that I've known for 10 plus years. His net worth is at least 10 times my own. His cash in hand is probably 10 times what I have, or at least 5 times what I have. And he still has borrowed money from me, just to show you the power of leverage. It just makes sense to sometimes borrow money so you can keep money in hand to do bigger, better deals and still be able to get cash flow going. So anyways, why out of state? Funds availability and your comfort level. So if you can't afford to invest or lend in your own backyard, like me, most properties in California are not really less than $500,000. If you find something that is cheaper, it's because it needs probably another quarter to $500,000 to make it worth something livable. And so I personally felt that I was going to be able to do maybe 1 or 2 loans at a time in a whole year if I was to do it out here and deal with all the legal insanity, which is the next bullet point, legal environment in California. I just didn't want to. I have a comfort level of being able to invest 50,000, 70,000, 30,000, 13,000, sometimes even in Indianapolis. And that's way more attractive to me, way lower risk level. And I love doing those kinds of deals versus $500,000 at a time, just personal preference. Legal environment. Your laws in your state or city are not as favorable for investors or landlords as they might be in a different city. Let's say if you live in New York City, but you want to invest and not have the insane headaches of dealing with the New York City laws for landlords and investors and lenders, then you go out to Texas or you go out to Indiana or you go Alabama and say, all right, well, I'm going to do it there because they're a lot more favorable, a lot easier to get your investment back or secure your investment through certain channels. So then you got geographical location. People just love the East Coast, but they recently moved out to Texas. And like, well, I'd rather only lend in Virginia or North Carolina, even though I live here in Texas, or I live in California, but I love, I moved out from Miami like I did. And you just want to invest in Florida and Miami because you know that market and you just don't want to give up the ability to be able to invest in a market that you lived in, a market that you have experience in, a market you have comfortability in, and then you hate, or the option is you hate having to deal with snow, hurricanes, tornadoes. Each city state comes with its own thing. I mean, heck, nobody in Texas was thinking about dealing with ice and snow and black sleet, but there they are. And so you just don't want to deal with it and say, well, I'm going to only invest in Hawaii because that's where I would love, if God forbid the property has to come back to me, I want to be able to just take the property over and enjoy it or convert it into a short-term rental. So if it meets your investment needs, maybe that's why you choose something out of state versus your own state. And then you have a support network, your family, your close friends, and people that your other investors that you're in contact with, your local RIA, whoever you talk to, or your mentors, they invest out of state successfully. And so you choose to go that route rather than doing something where, yeah, it may be driving distance, but it's not as comfortable because you don't have a team or you don't have a support structure in place to support that. So then you say, all right, I'm going to go outside, out of state, where my buddy has a property manager and a lender and a legal team that he's worked with. So I'm just going to rely on all that and start out of state versus do something locally where I'll have to build all that from scratch and it may take me longer to get started. So those are the reasons why you may go out of state instead of staying in your own backyard. Then comes why Indianapolis. That's where I do all of my lending. And these are some of the few key points that I found on the internet that talk about great population growth, amazing job market. They've got a hot real estate market where properties are flying off the shelves within a couple of weeks of listing. They got a strong renters market, which I can speak to personally about as well. Steady appreciation, also know about that very well. Reasonable cost of living. It's not insanely expensive. Like my studio in my house here in California, I should be able to rent out for like $2,000 a month, and it's only 400 square feet. Whereas over there, you could get a 1,300 square foot, 3-bedroom, 2.5 bathroom, single family home for maybe $1,000, $1,200. So it's just a reasonable cost of living, and you got great quality of life. You got access to quite a few things. You can go out to lakes. You can go out to amazing nature stuff. You got the Indy 500 there. You've got other national events, basketball, you name it, conventions. A lot of things happen in Indy, and they've got a lot of healthcare related stuff too. And then my reason, friends. Yes, I was literally talked into it. I have a best friend of mine out here in the Bay Area. He's the one who actually hired me to come out from Miami to the Bay Area. And I didn't know him then, but I have since become his best friend in the last 10 years. And he has started investing in Indy. He was already up to probably 55 units in Indianapolis and said, Jaspreet, you are an idiot. You're not investing out there. You got to get out there. You got to take a look at properties. I started by buying a duplex for $40,000, and each side was rented out for, I think, $650 a side. So $1,200 a month, and I bought it for 40 grand. I was like, dude, this is awesome. I should do more of these. Within 6 months, I think I went from 1 duplex to 4 duplexes. And over the years, fired a couple of property managers, rehab teams, sued someone, and dealing with tenants, dealing with nonstop pipes bursting or a spigot get left open in the middle of this winter and it was just covered in snow, so nobody knew about it. But there was a $4,000 bill for water and sewer because somebody just left the water running, or somebody broke the spigot outside. Nobody could see it because of the snow. So just dealing with enough stuff out here while I had a full-time job, 2 kids. I was running those properties there. I was doing a flip in Austin. I was looking at all these limited partnership deals and evaluating whether they were worth my time, worth the investment, and started doing lending. And I just said, dude, this is way too much. I just can't do so many things. And so I chose to start cutting off things. So I sold those properties, stopped doing flips and started focusing on loans, then got rid of the W-2 and focused more on the loans. And now primarily outside of those limited partnerships that I have, I've just kept 2 properties to myself, mostly because I wanted to be able to qualify for real estate professional status, tax benefits, and because they're great deals. Beyond that, it's all just lending. That's what I do now. Any questions at all? Anybody got any comments or anything?
Like I said, you're welcome. I don't see anything in the chat.
Cool. Yeah, anybody's welcome to just stop me whenever. I don't really care. Okay. Moving on to your specifics, comfort level. You want to make sure that you build a comfort level with the market that you want to lend in, the asset class that you want to lend on. Some people only lend on single families. Some people are okay going 1 to 4 units. Some people are okay going 1 to 10 units. Some people are only willing to deal with properties that are in the 15 units or higher, whatever you choose, right? Or self-storage or office space, whatever you decide, you want to make sure that you have some sort of understanding of the asset class that you want to lend on so you can do analysis faster. You don't want to say I'm open to everything and then all of a sudden an office comes to your desk or a triple net lease comes to your desk or an apartment complex or a quickie mart comes to your desk for a loan request and you're having to deal with all of these different evaluations for these different asset classes. So choose an asset class, learn it, understand it, and then get comfortable in that asset class so you can do loan processing faster, underwriting faster, and better. You want to be able to build a comfort level with the borrower. As I was saying before, I love creating relationships, talking to people, understanding their mindset, their business plans, their long-term goals, short-term goals, what are they looking for, what are they comfortable with, what kind of decisions are they making and why. Some people are okay making high LTV decisions or getting deals that are maybe just cutting it close to their 1% return rate but they know that they're going to put 15,000 into the property, and all of a sudden their LTV is going to become so less because the property value goes up by 35,000, 40,000, and they can get all their money back out and they want the longer term cash flow. Whereas somebody who's a flipper, you have a kind of mindset of, okay, I'm going to just buy it for this price. I'm going to have to put nothing more than this amount, sell it for this minus all the commissions and holding costs, and I need to make at least 25,000, 35,000, whatever it is, because then it helps you evaluate the deal for them as well. And you want to be able to help your borrower avoid bad deals, because you got to remember, you are putting more money into the deal than they are. And so you want to secure your position. You want to be able to comfortably say that this property in this neighborhood is really not going to be worth more than this. So make sure that you do your underwriting according to this, even if you are going to refinance me out in 6 months, because if it doesn't meet your needs, you may not be able to pay me back and you'll have to put more money down out of pocket. So I like to build that comfort level with the borrowers that I can talk to them and understand what their thought process is. Then with your team's expertise, you want to make sure that you have a comfort level in your legal team. You know that they've done 3,000 notes and mortgages and they've done 400 evictions and they know the judges, they know the process, they know the county, they know who to talk to, what to file when, and what likelihood is of success. You want to be able to talk to property managers in the neighborhood and say, okay, well, if I have to, God forbid, take the property back, will you be able to take this property on? What kind of rents should we expect? And you can use these teams to help with your underwriting, right? You can talk to a property manager on any given loan that comes to you and say, look, my borrower says he's going to get this in that neighborhood. Do you really think that's possible? Look, here's the photos and video of the property. Do you think that they can get that rate? Are the tenants in that neighborhood, A class, B class, C class? Is the property, have you driven past this property before? It's happened so many times. People are telling me like, oh my God, dude, I've driven past that thing 30 times. That thing's ready to fall apart. Don't lend on it. Right? So you just know, because people who are in the neighborhood driving and actively involved, like brokers, property managers, even GCs, they know the neighborhoods better than even you would, even if you lived in the area. And then you got local and state laws. You need to make sure that you can understand. I think even on the last call with Beth, we talked about, deed in lieu and having certain stipulations in your notes or the mortgage documents or deed of trust, which say in Texas, I think, Zachary, you were talking about that you can take over the property or you can foreclose on the property without having to go through the process. I think it was Michael, sorry. And so, it's just, there are a lot of nuances and differences in state and local laws between each state, sometimes even each county. Heck, there are certain counties in Indiana that require you to have, even as a lender, when you're about to file a release of mortgage once you've been paid back, certain counties in Indiana require you to have your signature notarized on the release document and a witness's signature notarized. Whereas other counties may not. They're okay with you just signing it and scanning it and sending it back. Others need it notarized and emailed. Others need a physical copy. It's just every county and state may have different laws and different rules around how they accept certain documents, what they need them to say, how quickly they need to be filed, who can do the filing, and what rules or what default rates need to be in there, what kind of fees and charges you can and cannot charge. So it's best to talk to a legal team in that specific area and understand what it is that you can and cannot do. So if you have a thought in mind of, well, I'm going to charge them these many points, this rate, and then I'm going to charge them this on the back end and split the profits and do whatever, certain states may not allow that. Or you may be crossing usury laws, or you may be, depending on if you lend to a person, you may be in hot water with Dodd-Frank law. So it's best to understand what kind of investment you're getting into, where the assets are, and then protect yourself accordingly. So that's the comfort level you want to have with the state and local laws, so you know what you're getting into and you can plan accordingly. All right. Why I'm comfortable lending out of state is because I am creating leverage, and leverage can be used in many ways, and I'm leveraging other people's time. I am leveraging the legal team's time to create a state-specific legal template, get it done once, make sure it meets all my needs, have all the things that I can put in there, whether it be rate, points, minimum interest due, or balloon payments, or payment structures, monthly payment clauses, whatever it is. I want them to give me 2-4 different templates that I can use as needed, and I'm done, right? At that point, I don't need to refer back to them every time. Check in every 6 months and say, hey, has there been any change to the state or local laws that I need to account for in these templates that you gave me? And if yes, let me know what they are. If not, we're good to go, and you just keep going. Then you're leveraging expertise. You've got attorneys, title companies, investment consultants like myself, or other people that you can rely on to talk to them about the specific state or city or county and find out if there's any gotchas you should watch out for. How they operate, how quickly they need things. Does the title company in this particular state accept only wires, or are they okay with wires and money orders or checks or whatever, right? I mean, each state, as far as I know, each state does have a different definition for secure funds. And the title company can educate you on that. And the title company can educate you on what documents you need to be able to file your liens properly. So you just rely and you leverage their expertise rather than continue to have to do research on BiggerPockets or Google or LegalZoom. Just talk to people that are in the market doing exactly what you need them to do, and then leverage their expertise to get comfortable quicker. Then you got resources like the county recorder's website, Secretary of State website. If somebody tells you they've done X number of deals, you go to the county recorder website, see how many recorded deeds they have, whether in the LLC or in their personal name, and you'll know exactly what they've done. You don't have to rely on manufactured HUDs or things that can be manipulated. You just go to the county recorder's website and you tell them, okay, well, tell me what entity you've done deals with. I'll look it up, and there they are. Right, so they can't lie about those. And then you can double check that against the HUDs that they give you and say, okay, well, yeah, I see the loan amounts match up, I see the dates match up. And so you can get more comfortable with your borrowers. Secretary of State website will show you what their statement of information form looks like when they file a legal entity, who's on it, what people's names are there, what addresses that they use. And so that just helps you validate the information that you're getting from the borrower. So I always ask my borrowers for everything up front, and then I use these websites and resources to validate what they're saying. And as long as it all matches up, perfect. Sometimes I have guys who are borrowing in Indiana, but they have a Wyoming entity. And so I've gone to the Wyoming website, checked what they had, and gotten copies of their operating agreements and such to validate what they were saying. Then you're leveraging experience. Talk to investors, talk to fellow lenders, talk to some of the top brokers in the areas, wholesalers even, because they are doing volumes well beyond what you're going to be doing. And so when you have people that are doing way more volume than you, they are way more comfortable and have a better understanding of the things that you may not know about. So you can talk to them about these certain neighborhoods, like, hey, my borrower says this is an amazing up and coming neighborhood. Is it really? What are you seeing? Have the number, you can talk to the brokers and say, well, how many days on the market are properties spending with, they have this many bedrooms, that many bathrooms, that many square footage in this neighborhood. You can talk to fellow lenders and say, hey, what kind of loan to values are you guys using? What kind of property values are you seeing in these areas? Wholesalers, I mean, their deal flow is hundreds of deals a year, right? If they're really good. And so you can rely on their experience and say, well, hey, if you're basing your offers on these, or what are your sales prices? Are a lot of people bidding up the prices on these properties in these neighborhoods? And so you should be open to having communication with experts in the areas that you want help in, or that you need to help understanding in, and just reach out to them, talk to them. Nobody's going to sit there and tell you no. Some attorneys may charge you a little bit of money, or you say, look, if you help me out right now, give me an hour's consultation, I'll make sure that all my deals flow through you. Or I'm going to make sure that I get all of my templates from you. Or I'm going to make sure that I refer you to X, Y, and Z and file my entity through your company, right? So they'll make their money elsewhere, but they can at least give you advice. You can talk to brokers and say, hey, I want to be getting into lending. I want to get a broker's pricing opinion on my assets that I want to lend against. And I want you to be the guy, but I want you to give me a lowdown on the market, the overall fluctuations, what you're seeing. Do you invest in the areas? Why not? Things of that nature. So just find people who are active in the markets that you want to lend in and be open to conversations. That's the best way to learn. Leveraging knowledge. If you have a problem, someone else has likely had it before too, and they've found a solution that works. It may not always work for you, but at least you can get an idea as to how they went about it. I don't care if it's a property you lent on and God forbid, you had to foreclose on it, got the property back, and it was a duplex, and now you have to split the water line. Maybe you've never done that before. Well, you go onto Facebook, or you go onto RIA, or you go onto your anybody that you have in your list of mentors and say, hey, have you ever done a water split on a duplex in Indianapolis in Marion County? Yes. All right. Who did you use? What did you go through? How long did it take? What did it cost? You can talk to people and leverage their knowledge in that particular thing. And leveraging money. This is the highest risk I can talk about, but you're basically borrowing money to lend. You can borrow money against your house if you have a HELOC at say 3 to 4% and lend it at even 10%. Heck, you're making a 6% arbitrage. People have IRAs they can lend out of, 401ks that they roll over into self-directed. You can borrow from family members. I've even borrowed from a credit card at 0% and lent it out at 10%. But you just have to understand the risk. If you get comfortable in certain borrowers or in certain asset classes or in certain price ranges and say, well, I'm going to do a $13,000 loan, well, rather than using my own money, I'm going to borrow $13,000 at 0% from a credit card and I'm going to lend it out. Well, great. It didn't cost you anything. It's not your own money. And if you have enough cash reserves to say, God forbid, if it goes bad and I have to pay the credit card back without getting paid and charged 22% interest rate, perfect. You make sure that you have a backup plan. And as long as you do that, you're good. So you can leverage money, time, experience, resources, any of these things from other people to then be able to get successful in your lending. Yes, the meat of the matter, building your team. I have a couple of good brokers. Some call them realtors, agents. Indianapolis, I think every agent is a broker, just the way it is. Managing broker and then a broker. That's the way it goes. And so I've got a couple of those that I rely on for my broker pricing opinions. I have never yet of those 160 plus deals asked for an appraisal on a single property. I know, never needed it. The brokers that I rely on are amazing. They know the markets really well. They can go into the MLS, they can pull comps, they can tell me what the ARVs are as is and to be, and they can tell me, look, you're okay lending this much because I really feel like the property is worth this much right now as it is. And yep, their rehab scope of work looks pretty good. And it's, yes, it can really hit this number or maybe go beyond or less. And I rely on those expertise. Legal advisors, man, this is a key component you do not want to be without, right? Even before you get started, you want to make sure that you're not missing out on understanding what the state-specific usury laws are, what the foreclosure process and timelines and costs looks like. Do you need a lien through a mortgage? Through what? Do you need a deed of trust? Do you need a note and mortgage and guarantee documents? Are they enforceable? What do you need to make a personal guarantee enforceable? And no, I have not done a single deal without a personal guarantee yet. Every loan that I have either self-funded or helped anyone else come to the table and fund, I'm sure I can see a couple of names on this list that have done multiple deals through me now, and never a single one without a personal guarantee. So you have the asset. If God forbid the asset is enough to pay you back and what you're owed, then you go after the entity. And if the entity doesn't have other assets that you can put liens against, then you go after the person specifically. And yes, I keep a copy of their driver's license, social security cards on hand to be able to enforce those personal guarantees, God forbid, if time comes. Then you got tax specialists, your CPAs, your tax preparers, enrolled agents, whoever you want to use. I don't care if it's Anderson advisors that are nationwide or you someone local that you've used for 10 years. Talk to them about implications. If you do a lot of loans, if you do one loan, I don't think that that's going to make a huge difference to your tax bracket, your income, your tax. For tax purposes, your interest income is considered as regular income. So it's just ordinary income. It's not some crazy, oh, this is a passive investment or a real estate investment. No, it just shows up as ordinary income in your tax returns. And when you get into more volume, that's when you want to talk to a CPA and say, look, what are the implications I have? If I do too many loans, does it change my tax status? Does it change my tax bracket? Do I have to send forms or do I have to get certain forms from these borrowers for any interest that they paid me and any interest that I earned? Do I have to let them know? Do I have to get the W-9 filled? These are all things that are specific to your situation, because if you're doing person to person versus entity to entity, so what state you're in, all of that makes a difference. Then you got a rehab team. Luckily, I have, well, I say luckily, but luckily enough, I've had to rehab enough homes in Indianapolis that I have a team of licensed electricians, plumbers, HVAC guys, flooring people I can call upon, roof and windows and siding that I know where they buy it. They're reliable people that can go in and do these repairs. And I use these rehab teams not just for my properties and not just if I have to take over a property as a foreclosure, which I haven't had to do yet, but because some borrowers may come into a problem and say, hey, Jaspreet, we have a loan from you. Our rehab team just quit, or all of them got COVID and they can't do anything for the next 10 days. Do you have someone who can come in a pinch and have an inspection, can come in and do this HVAC or this electrical work? Sure, sounds good. I've got a Rolodex of people that I can call upon. I'll refer them out and help your borrowers, right? Since you build that relationship in the get-go, it's so much easier for them to let you know of any issues, have open communication, and then you can rely on your team to help them out, and then now everyone's successful. So that's the way you want to look at things. You never want to be a predatory, like, oh, well, sucks for you, I'm going to file an eviction or foreclosure to get you out of that property, and just because your team quit or you weren't able to get the property value you wanted. So I always make sure that I give them any resources that I have at my disposal to help them succeed, because I want them to do not just 1, but 10, but 20 loans. So then you got insurance experts. I've got at least 2 people that I refer out on a constant basis for properties, because I want them to I have faith in their ability to provide certain protections in a policy. I know that they understand what a lender needs, how to protect the lender's position in that property, and they make sure that those things are accounted for in any property insurance that I get. And then even insurance for title insurance, the next one, right? Title policies. You want to make sure that you have good title companies that you can deal with, who are going to give you speed, who know your name, who know your wiring instructions on file, who don't give you crap about stupid things that you may have missed, or, oh, well, you didn't ask for this, so we didn't do it, or, well, you didn't tell us you wanted it wired, so we just mailed you a check. Well, if you build a relationship with the title companies, they know that, oh, well, if it's Jaspreet Steel or JGB LLC shows up, what's the name of the company, then they know that they're just going to wire it. They just call me, let me know, get text messages, emails, and it's all about relationships. They can help you do document execution, say, hey, look, this borrower wanted to come in on this date. Can you get this thing signed and recorded? Yep, no problem. All right, send them over. And even if you are in a pinch and a deal comes up same day and you don't have the time to go and modify your loan docs that you got from your legal team, well, you can rely on a title company to go ahead and create the mortgage and personal guarantee documents and send them over for review, make changes as needed. I've actually had to make changes even while the borrower was sitting at the closing table, and I'm talking to the legal counsel of the title company saying, you missed this. You need to change that to 1 point on closing right now, not at the end. So you have to have relationships. I had the cell phone number for the legal counsel of the title company. You just build these relationships, build a team that you can rely on, and have a comfort level where you can call them, bounce ideas, make modifications, and let them tell you if you're wrong, or you can tell them, hey, you missed something. Then you got other lenders and investors. As I've said this before, you want to be able to have a team of people that have your best interests at heart. Other investors and lenders that are not involved in the deal are not going to give you any advice that's going to benefit them in any way. They're just looking out for you at that point. If people have lent on quadplexes their whole lives, and the first quadplex comes up to your desk and you have no idea how to underwrite it or your loan, well, then you reach out to those guys and say, hey, I know you only lend on multifamily, and this is the first duplex, triplex, quadplex that came up, and I need to understand if my borrower is budgeting for expenses the right way, if they're accounting for income the right way, if they're accounting for HVACs and roofs and all of these things and taxes properly. Can you help me underwrite this deal properly? Well, at that point, they'll help you out. They don't really care if you do the loan or not. They're not out there trying to snatch the deal from you. It's not something that's on the open market. It's somebody already has the deal under contract, and now you're asking them for their help in understanding the underwriting. So you just want to rely on mentors, other investors, lenders in the market, and leverage their experience and knowledge to make sure you do your underwriting best as possible and avoid any foreclosures or defaults in the future. And the intangibles. Think about things differently. Warm and fuzzy. I've said these in many podcast episodes before too. I look for the warm and fuzzies. You can't see them, you can't touch them, you just feel them. And I've had borrowers that come to the table and the way they talk, the way they throw numbers around, the way they try to inflate their experience that you can't back up, or you see that they've changed their LLC name 17 times in the last 2 years. Well, must be running from something. Or if you look at their credit and you see they've got certain things that they haven't paid in years, what's the reason, right? So things don't have to be a glaring red flag for you to understand that there might be indications of a problem. So I look for those things. That only comes from having a relationship with your borrower. When you're constantly in communication, you talk to them even when there's no deal on the table. You try to understand what kind of deals they're doing. You want to understand how they evaluate certain things, what their underwriting looks like. Do they have 75 units under management, or is this their third deal in their life, right? And so when somebody's done 76 deals and they bring me as a 77th, I look at it for maybe 25 minutes. But if this is somebody's first flip and they want to borrow money from me, I looked at it for 3 hours and understood every Redfin, Zillow, Trulia, crime maps, photos, videos, CMAs, BPOs, you name it. I looked at everything, their entity creation, their tax records, their all of that stuff, right? So it's just whatever it takes for you to get to that warm and fuzzy place where you can say, yep, I feel comfortable about this. I'm not going to lose sleep over this. And I don't care if the loan to value is 94% versus the 90% that I was comfortable with. It's okay. It's no big deal because I have comfort in the asset, the business plan, and the person executing the business plan to be able to go a little bit outside my 100% comfort zone and still feel comfortable. So those are the warm and fuzzies that I'm talking about. Whether it's something that you have to do on your end, if it's hiring a freaking PA and going out and getting a full-blown background check on them, or just doing enough due diligence through the resources I already shared before, it's really up to you. And the warm and fuzzies are not something that you can just put parameters around. These are things that you just look at and you yourself understand. Yeah, that sounds like a yellow flag. Let me do some more digging. Or you know what? Holy crap, this looks way too good to be true. I think something's wrong here. And so those are the kind of things that you can only feel, and definitely it gets better with experience. In the beginning, you may be more skeptical about everything, and that's okay. It's your money, your terms, your decision. You dictate every single piece about that loan. I don't care. Heck, even if I bring you a loan proposal and you want to be a lender and you want to come to me and say, hey, Jaspreet, I want to help. I need help finding deals that I can fund. And I send you a proposal that says, okay, well, they're buying it for this much. The loan amount that they want is this much, and they want it for 6 months. Well, you can come back and say, no, I don't want to do that loan amount. I feel like it's too high. I'm going to do a loan amount 17,000 lower than what they're asking for. Perfect. There's nothing wrong with you making a decision about how you want to invest your money. Don't let anyone talk you into or pressure you into doing deals that you're not comfortable with, where you don't feel the warm and fuzzies. And if there's something that you feel will help you get there, be open. Talk to the borrower, talk to somebody like me who's helping you find deals, or talk to other people in the neighborhood or your friends, mentors, other investors, lenders. Leverage this Facebook group that Alex has created for other people, where other people are willing and able to help, and get to that point where you feel comfortable enough to get into deals and move forward accordingly. So that was the end of my presentation. Wow, I didn't really take too much time. We got more than enough time to talk, to answer questions, go into more details. And I just wanted to keep this high level enough about me, who I am, how I got into this, and what I look for when I do deals. And this is my website. You're welcome to go there. It's got a Calendly link. I would be more than happy to discuss what goals you have in mind, how we might be able to work together, or even help each other out, whether you've got the deal flow or you need the deal flow, whether you have questions around lending out of state or questions about how to even get into private lending. Just happy to chat.
And we do have one question that's in the chat box and says, what do you look for in the operating agreement?
I'm looking to make sure that I understand who the operators are. I want to know if their partners are there. I want to see where the operating agreement is based, right? If it's based in Wyoming versus Indiana, what kind of things are they putting in place? How are they going to split the profits? I mean, operating agreements have so many different terms depending on who it is and what kind of entity they set up. But I want to make, the primary thing I look for is making sure that I know exactly who all the partners are, and I do a background check and a credit check on each partner listed in any operating agreement there is. That's the primary goal, and then matching up against the state website to make sure that it's all kosher.
Do you make every partner in a LLC or some sort of business entity sign for the loan?
Yeah, I do. Every partner in an LLC signs on the note and mortgage and personal guarantee and does the background check and the application process.
And then a question that's on here is, what do you look to make for a return?
As much as possible, man. Come on. Milk them for everything they got. No, I'm just kidding. Like I said, a relationship-based thing is I want to make sure that everyone succeeds. So if there is room in the deal where I feel like a 12% return isn't really going to net enough because it's a $20,000 loan, well, then I tell them that, hey, look, for a $20,000 loan, 12% is just not going to cut it. I'm going to need a fixed point structure, a fixed fee. I don't care if you keep the money for a day or 20 days or 60 days, you're going to pay at least that much money. But if I bring lenders to the table, I tell them that I'm trying to get them at least somewhere around 10 to 12% return rate on their capital, depending on the borrower's experience, the asset class, the loan to value, the dollar amount that you're lending, the term that you're lending for, the type of deal that you're funding, whether it's a wholesale deal, right? A wholesale is where they're just gonna take the property down, spend a couple of $1,000s to clean out, make sure they fix the biggest, like the hole in the wall in the dining room. Well, they're gonna fix that and paint it, but they're not gonna go and replace every piece of carpet and every flooring, every wall, every appliance, every cabinet. They're not doing all that. They're not doing a full-blown rehab. They're just getting it to the point where they know that they can still make money on the open market because there's low inventory and people are gonna bid it up. Wholesale. Then there's a wholesale deal where they just know that they have an amazing 1,000-person internal list of people where they can get the property listed in an email blast and have it sold same day. Perfect. Those are really short-term loans, sometimes less than a month, sometimes a couple of weeks. And then you got rehab loans, which I don't do. I have never yet lent money for rehab, and I don't advocate for it, and I don't present those deals to my lenders either. I try to make sure that I'm only bringing a deal to the table where either me or whoever I'm bringing to the table is funding against the purchase price. And that's just a layer of protection I have. But let's say if it is for a rehab, well, then we make sure that they have enough money in their pockets to go out and do the rehab, and the property's ARV is going to match what they say against what the broker says. And so those might be 3 to 6 months. Then you got BRRRR loans where you know that they're just buying it to, if there is an active tenant, if they know that they're going to get them out or it's going to be delivered vacant, go in, do the rehab, rent it out, and do the seasoning period for the lender, and then get an appraisal and refi the loan, and then do it all over again. So then you know it's going to be at least a 6-month term because you have to wait for them to season the loan. 6 to 7 to 8 months. So it just all depends on the type of deal that you're funding, what the return rate that you expect. And I've said this multiple times, go beyond the percentage, because if it's a $13,000 loan like I've done before, a 10, 12, 14, 20% return rate or APR is still not going to get you enough money if they keep the loan for only 30 days or 90 days, right? So look beyond the percentage, look at the dollar amounts, and even in your own mind, have an understanding of what your goal is as a lender. Are you looking for active, passive cash flow, right? You need this money every month to come in to be able to pay your bills because you're about to quit your job and you're going to rely on this income? Or do you already have $6 million in the bank account and you really don't care, but you're looking for longer term investment? Is this out of your self-directed IRA where it's just going to grow your retirement income at a rate and you're okay keeping a 12 to 24 month term with no monthly payments and get a balloon at the end? Or again, do you need this money back in 3 months because you're going to do your own flip and you can't do longer terms and you need the monthly income to come in? I will tell you that on most of my terms, 90+% of them, I only do balloon payments. I do not ask for monthly payments. I do not ask any loan that I've ever done personally. I've never asked for points up front. If there are any points on the back end, different story, but I've never asked for points up front. I don't have any application fees or loan prep fees or any fees up front from my borrowers besides the one-time $40 they pay for the application, and that's it. Now, if I'm bringing a lender to the table, then yes, I have a commission built into that for myself that the borrower pays for up front, and sometimes even that they pay on the back end. If it's a 60-day loan and they need the money to be a higher percentage up front and they need, let's say 95% financing, they can't close it otherwise. I've done that before where I said, all right, well, when you sell the property, pay me back. And I don't get paid for that until they sell. So it really freaking depends. Every single deal that I've ever done has been totally different. I don't care if it's the loan to value percentage, the loan to purchase price, the loan to ARV, loan amounts, terms, durations, rates, fees, points. Every single thing has been different. Every loan that I've done so far.
Perfect. I agree. I think to me, that's one of the benefits of private lending is you have that flexibility to kind of make a deal work collaboratively with an active investor, that might be beneficial to both of you in the long term.
Exactly.
I'm not sure if you can answer this one, but someone asks, can I invest in the USA from Canada?
I've had people invest from Iran and I think Albania or something. So yeah, I don't think it matters at all where you are. As long as you have a checking or savings account that can wire money to a title company, the title companies do not care where the money came from, as long as you put your name on the loan or the entity's name that it's lending. That's all that matters, because they are expecting you to do your taxes based on wherever you live and your tax situation. So as long as you get clarifications from your, let's say, Canadian tax advisor or legal team saying that, hey, if I invest out of country, what implications does it have for me for reporting or for tax brackets? That's all that matters. As long as you have those under control and you can wire money to an American title company from your bank, that's it.
Perfect. Do you invest more in syndications than personal flips or rehabs?
No, my total money in my limited partnership syndications is probably 20% of my net worth, and the remainder, or 20% of my investments, and the remainder is in private lending now. I would say 75% is in private lending, and then 5% is basically in my personal assets that I hold for investment purposes.
Perfect. And
Maybe
if
10%.
anybody has any other questions, you can either unmute yourself or put them in the chat. And it says, what are your thoughts on peer-to-peer lending websites or platforms?
I think that if you want to get into that space with low dollar amounts and distributed ownership and fragmented ownership, or you're losing the security of a first position lien, because you are no longer in control of the term, the duration, the underwriting, the foreclosure process, any legal action that is involved, you have no control over. So if you just want to get started and you want to put 10,000 into one of these peer-to-peer lending platforms and just see how it works, sure. But I think if you want to get to genuinely stable returns and have more control over your own money, you're going to want to get into private lending on your own, where you can underwrite the asset, underwrite the borrower, negotiate the loan amounts, the loan rate, term, fees, points, payment structures, and have control over being able to initiate foreclosures or initiate deed in lieu or anything that's specific to your state. The more control you have, I feel, the better off you are. So at that point, you're going to want to get into private lending where you're doing peer-to-peer, not through a platform, but through either somebody like me, or you're finding these deals yourself through a local RIA, through Facebook, through other platforms. But please always try to underwrite at least the deal to the best of your ability, even if you can't get everything about the borrower that you need. Because in the end, the asset is really what's securing your investment. And if your loan to value as is low enough, you're perfect. If your loan to value ARV is low enough, even then you're good.
Great answer. I love it. Let's see, one more. Do you mostly use syndications for the write-offs?
No. They have, since I've quit my job, I'm trying to, like I said, 2020 should be the first time that I should be able to qualify for reps with a professional status, and I will be able to use that income as deductions, but that was not my primary goal. My primary goal was to understand all these different asset classes, right? Like I said, I did CBD, it was like marijuana, self-storage, multifamily, office space, warehouse space, you name it. I was just trying to get an idea of what these asset classes look like, what the underwriting looks like, what the business plans look like, what kind of syndicators and operators are in those spaces, what kind of returns can I see? And so this was just my way of investing money, quote unquote, buying courses and understanding these different asset classes and different business plans so that I can better educate myself and know what I want and don't want to do in the future. Had no expectations of 14% cash on cash every year and 100% or 90% of my initial investment as a depreciation year one. Those were not my primary goals. But yes, they definitely can be if you are high net worth enough and you're making enough money every year and you need those and you can qualify for this professional status, that your passive losses can be taken against your ordinary income. All the more power to you. Definitely you should do it.
And I got a question sent to me that says, how did you learn to do private lending when you first started?
Thrown into the deep end? I think a wholesaler of all people had come to me and said, hey, Jaspreet, we've got this property that we want to buy. And I had bought, like I said, 4 properties in Indianapolis, all around the $40,000 to $60,000, or I think a couple of them even $22,000 for a duplex. Okay, mind you, I had bought these properties, and so my price range in my head was, you can buy anything for $50,000 in Indianapolis. And then this guy comes to me and says, hey, I'm buying this property for $245,000, and it's going to be worth $350,000 in about a week once I'm done with fixing this and changing this, and it's got a huge farm, like 3 acres of land, and it's got this, and that. Like $245,000. What are you talking about? There's nothing in Indianapolis for $200,000. I buy everything for $40,000 or $60,000. And he said, no, look at it. And then I talked to my broker. Then I got a CMA off the MLS, and I looked at it and I said, wow, no, this property is actually worth $350,000. Holy crap, you're right. And this person had done many deals in wholesaling, so I knew that his underwriting was going to be bad, and he had a reputation to maintain that I knew he wasn't going to default. So I said, all right, fine, I've got $250,000. I'm going to go ahead and give you $215,000 and let's do this. So I talked to a title company, I talked to a legal team, all within probably 10 days, and just learned the best that I could for that first deal to get started. And like I said, within 4 months after that, I was already in 6 more loans. And with every loan, I learned something new. I talked to more people, I talked to more investors, and increased the number of people that I have in my network and more types of deals that I did, right? So I did more flips since then. So I had a better team on the ground to handle those things, and I got more comfortable. So you just want to be able to get to a point where you're comfortable enough and you can rely on other people to help you get comfortable enough to do your first deal. I think it's very important that you get started. I don't care if you do a low amount to get started, but I think it's definitely something you should explore and get into.
Yeah, I concur. I mean, it kind of got thrown in the deep end at the very beginning. I had some lending background, but it was, 15 years ago in a different state. So,
Yeah.
Had an active investor background, so I knew the lingo a little bit, but my experience was very similar to yours. You just go and you start, and then every loan teaches you something new.
Exactly. That's the way to get started. I don't think you need to spend thousands of dollars and go through thousands of hours of learning. I might be setting up a course soon. Who knows? Maybe. But anyways, I don't think you need all that. It's great to have it as much as you can. And like I said, right, don't forget that warm and fuzzy slide. As soon as you get to that warm and fuzzy where you know that the borrower is reliable, the asset has more than enough value in it, just do it. Make sure you protect yourself. Talk to a lawyer, talk to the title company and say, hey, look, what are all the protections that you can add into this note and mortgage personal guarantee document to make sure that I have to go through as little effort as possible to get my money back in the worst case possible scenario, and then get a property insurance agent involved, a broker, and say, look, I want to make sure that you are the only one who gives this borrower a property package, and the binder should make sure that I'm covered in every which way, lost payee, lender, mortgagee, whatever checkbox you got to check, make sure that I'm covered first and foremost, and then you go for it.
Yep, I agree. And if anybody has anything else, we're going to wrap it up because we're right here at 8 o'clock. So I want to be respectful of everyone's time here and also of Jaspreet. I appreciate it. Do you loan outside of Indianapolis?
Like I said, I've only done 2 in California, but I have no interest in doing any more outside of Indianapolis. I love that market. I understand that market. I have a great team in place to manage the assets if worst case scenario and people who understand that market. So I want to stick to a market where I have boots on the ground and a reliable team versus just expanding and taking on more headaches than I need to. Because in the end, I did this to be able to spend more time with the family. And the more I have to continuously learn and adapt, the less I can do that. So honestly, at the moment, no, I really don't need to and don't want to.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's pretty typical for a lot of private lenders that I feel like most people don't realize is they tend to be very market specific for all the reasons that you've mentioned tonight. The laws, knowing the market, having the boots on the ground. Even if you're local, you still need other professionals, even if you're local. So I feel that's pretty typical for most of the private lenders that I personally know. They're pretty limited in their market scope on where they will lend.
Yep.
So, all right, everyone. Thank you very much for coming. I appreciate it. And
I'm surprised nobody unmuted. That's crazy.
Well, I mean, come on. You're normally our unmuter when we have events, Jaspreet. You've been unmuted the whole time.
True.
Everyone just wanted to hear your beautiful voice, Jaspreet. That's what it was.
Got it. That's what that was.
Thanks, Jaspreet.
So thank you everybody for coming out. Again, go ahead and go to his website, book some time. It's well worth it. He's definitely tons of fun to talk to, as you can see, and always full of wealth of information. I love talking to him any opportunity I get. So thank you everybody for coming out and spending a little bit of time with us this evening. Thank you.
Good night, everyone. Take care.
Night,
Later, Jonathan.